Heart racing. Nurse Karen Matthews hurried into the birth room. She entered and saw Sharon Smith, a terrified adolescent going through labor and dealing with the stress of giving birth to triplets. Karen felt Sharon was in good care, even though she was overwhelmed. Karen saw this delivery as a turning point. She sympathized with Sharon's cries, realizing the difficulties the young mother would face. Medical personnel bustled around the room, helping with the tumultuous birth. But Karen's attention was fixed on Sharon. Sharon's expression conveyed relief at the birth of the first child. But fear took hold as the second and third arrived. Karen leapt to action, wanting to be of assistance. Following the delivery of all 3 infants, she saw sorrow in Sharon's eyes. It lingered for several days. That despair. Every time Karen saw Sharon, a worried expression on her face. She was nursing her babies, understanding the challenges of being a teen mother. Karen provided assistance to Sharon in taking care of the children. Have you chosen names yet for them? In an attempt to cheer Sharon up, Karen inquired. However, Karen noticed that Sharon was not feeling well. It appeared that she had fallen into a profound despair. Karen has seen a range of responses from mothers throughout her time as a nurse. While some women struggled, others were able to form an instant attachment with their newborns. Was Sharon a victim of postpartum depression? With tears running down her cheeks, Sharon lay in her hospital bed and showed little interest in holding or nursing her triplets. With great pity, Karen wondered how she might support the young mother. Karen saw that no one had visited the triplets since their delivery. Sharon's melancholy appeared to be exacerbated by this absence, and Karen was resolved to learn more. Karen observed Sharon watching TV one calm evening and took the chance to strike up a conversation. She came hesitantly. Hello? Sharon. What state are you in? Could I please take a seat? With a disgruntled glare in her direction, Sharon pulled the blankets closer about her. She was obviously having trouble. I only have a few of inquiries. Why is no one coming to see you or the babies? Where are the father and your folks now? Karen realized she was onto something when she saw a single tear escape Sharon's eye. They sat in silence as she gave her a tissue. Since Sharon was obviously not ready to talk, Karen made the decision to come back the following evening. But even the next evening, Sharon stayed quiet. Karen continued to check on her and the triplets, patiently but frustrated. Subsequently, one day, Sharon gave Karen a little grin that gave her hope. Karen walked over to her bedside, her heart pounding. She sat next to Sharon and said, "It's good to see you smile. Is there anything you'd like to talk about?" But as soon as Karen started talking, Sharon's smile vanished and was replaced with a deeply troubled expression, as though her fleeting moment of joy had been dashed. Sharon didn't say anything at first, her eyes welling with tears. Karen persisted. And although Sharon was clearly troubled by something, she mumbled, "You should go." Karen felt like giving up if she left her, but she couldn't let go. Karen pushed Sharon away, saying, "You can stop acting like you care just to make yourself feel better." When Karen wouldn't go, startled, Karen affirmed, "I'm not acting. I would like to assist." Sharon, nevertheless, cut her short and shouted, "Leave. Nothing is within your power." Karen answered, Becoming a mother is scary. But I can help. Resolved to help. The babies aren't even half the problem, sneered Sharon. All I want is to be alone myself. She averted her eyes, making Karen think about walking away. Unease overcame Karen as she watched Sharon's tear-filled eyes fixed on the wall as she got up to go. There was a strange feeling. She entered the hallway, her mind racing but her body in need of water. It had been difficult the last several days to watch contented families heading out with their infants while Sharon stayed aloof and uncommunicative. Karen thought about Sharon's concern and what secrets she might be keeping while sipping her water. She was determined to find out what was going on. It was already dinner time before she realized it. Serving patients. Karen moved from room to room with a big food cart. About halfway through, she walked down Sharon's corridor and saw a young man pacing nervously and gazing at her room from outside. Who was this guy? Since Sharon hadn't had any visitors since arriving, Karen felt that something wasn't quite right. Since the man's face was concealed by a sweatshirt, Karen was driven to look into it. Could you take a moment to handle this? She questioned another nurse. She went to the man, who was now standing outside Sharon's door, and got a nod in return. His peculiar actions made her more concerned. He started to move away as soon as he saw her. Karen was unable to let him go. She yelled, "Hey! Stop!" but he slipped away and started to run. She was perplexed and questioned why he was observing Sharon. She picked up a plate of food and went into Sharon's room, determined to warn her. As she did, she noticed the man still observing the young girl who was fast asleep. Karen sat the tray next to Sharon and gave her a quick shoulder shake. "Sharon, please wake up," she murmured. The girl opened her eyes and showed signs of confusion. She wiped her eyes, groggy and furious at being bothered when she had a headache. "What's happening?" she inquired. Karen was aware that she had to alert her about the man. Karen sat down next to Sharon, who didn't seem too happy, and whispered, "Listen. A man stood at the door, observing you." Sharon scowled. "He fled when I approached him. And he was wearing a hoodie. Can you identify who he could be?" With a groan, Sharon nodded. "Yes. I have seen him previously. He is an individual who I no longer have in my life." Karen was intrigued by Sharon's life and sensed something off about her. "I appreciate you watching out for me," Sharon replied, startling Karen with her initial flash of optimism. Would it, however, endure? Who was this guy? Someone you had a close relationship with? Karen fearlessly posed the question. Sharon nodded, surprising her. "Would you like to discuss the current situation?" Karen said. "I could help." But Sharon pulled back into her shell. Karen was aware that patience was required. This went beyond teenage pregnancy. Sharon believed that her circumstances were special, and Karen wanted to support her. Later that night, Karen hurried to rock Sharon when she discovered her sobbing in bed. "Speak with me. Let me know what's wrong. My goal is to assist you." With tears running down her cheeks, Sharon raised her gaze. "I can't give these babies the care they need. I can offer them nothing. I'm by myself." Karen recognized her opportunity. Sharon started talking once she had calmed down. "At this moment, I am alone in my life." Sharon paused before returning Karen's stare. Her voice could hardly be heard in the hospital room as she said, "I don't know where to start." Karen put a steady hand on Sharon's shaky shoulder. "You don't need to face this obstacle by yourself. I'm here to support you and your children. No matter how you're feeling." With confusion and need in her gaze, Sharon thought carefully before speaking. She let out a deep breath and spoke up about her loneliness, uncertainties, and anxieties. Karen listened carefully as she talked, offering consolation and support. Sharon talked candidly about the difficult connection she had with her parents, the baby's father's absence, and the weight of responsibility that was placed on her young shoulders. Karen's heart hurt more for Sharon the more she revealed. Sharon has obviously been bearing the weight of the world by herself. But now that Karen was with her, they started formulating a strategy. Having been a teen mother herself, Karen knew what it was like to be a single parent during adolescence. Knowing that Sharon and her babies needed someone to look after them, she made the decision to take them in. Resolved, Karen went to the hospital administration and gave them the rundown on Sharon's predicament and choice. Following some deliberation, they decided to give Sharon and her triplets temporary housing while they looked for a more long-term alternative. Sharon was first apprehensive about this abrupt transformation. However, hope started to glimmer in Sharon's eyes as Karen comforted her and assisted her in settling in. Karen rapidly organized aid by contacting friends, co-workers, and past patients. Before long, offers of childcare, toys, clothes, and diapers poured in. A glimmer of hope appeared in Sharon's heart as she watched in amazement as strangers banded together to assist her. Weeks passed, and Sharon started talking more, sharing her hopes, dreams, and anxieties. As their relationship deepened, Sharon began to view Karen as more than just a nurse, rather, she saw her as a friend and mentor. Karen was inspired by Sharon's fortitude and tenacity in the face of difficulty. Sharon was adamant on creating a better future for herself and her children in spite of her obstacles. With them, she felt more comfortable and chose Serena, Ella, and Cindy as the names for her 3 girls. She became a more assured mother and learned how to take care of children with Karen's assistance. Karen was a great assistance to Sharon as she navigated the difficulties of parenthood, celebrated her little accomplishments, and learned how to bounce back from failures. In an effort to support her family, Sharon decided to go back to school and obtained a part-time job. She gradually put her life back together, drawing strength from her love for her girls and the community's encouragement. Her inspirational story became known throughout the hospital, acting as a ray of hope for those going through difficult times. Karen was proud of how Sharon had grown from a scared young woman to a strong, confident young lady. As Karen developed into a reliable companion, their relationship grew and went beyond their duties as nurse and patient. Years later, Karen was pleased with her kids' development as they developed into vivacious young ladies. Sharon was doing great, smiling as she juggled employment and school. Amanda's natural protective nature took over. She responded, "You shouldn't be here," and blocked the entrance. "You abandoned her when she needed you most." Karen materialized behind Amanda before Andrew could reply, quickly identifying him. "You must depart," she stated icily. "Sharon doesn't want to see you." With despair in his eyes, Andrew shook his head. "Let me speak with her, please. I've evolved. I want to put things right for my girls now that I have a job. Sharon, her heart racing, ascended the stairs at a leisurely pace after being awakened by the noise. She was terrified of confronting him in any way. Changing into her nightgown, she lowered herself gently down the flight of stairs. She was taken aback to see Andrew again, especially in light of everything that had transpired. Seeing him had her breath stuck in her throat. "Andrew," she said, her voice quivering and shaking. She stepped into the light to get a better look at him. Andrew narrowed his eyes. His appearance mirrored that of the boy she had loved in the past when he laid eyes on her. "Sharon, I'm so sorry," he uttered in a broken voice. "It was my fault. But I'm here now. Let us become a family. I beg you. Please. Give me opportunity again." Yet would she pay attention? There was a split second of vulnerability in the girl. Then it hit her. The last 12 months had been the worst of her life. She would not facilitate his task. Amanda was looking really serious. "Andrew, what is it that you desire?" With her diminutive stature, she insisted, obstructing the entrance. "You must have a lot of nerve to show up here after all you did to her." Andrew recoiled but maintained his composure. "I apologize. I am here now. Even though I know I made a mistake. I am eager to be a part of their life now that I have a job. Becoming a family is my goal for us." Seeing Andrew, Amanda, who had been in the kitchen, hurried to the door. "Andrew, you're really brave. Go away." Sharon was slowly descending the steps behind Amanda, her expression betraying her amazement. But Andrew remained motionless, his stare fixated on her. She muttered, "Andrew," as if a specter were visible to her. His face softened as he raised an eyebrow to meet hers. "My apologies, Sharon. I escaped in a panic. But I'm finally here. Allow me the opportunity. I long to support you and the girls." Sharon's emotions were all over the place. Fury, grief, and bewilderment. Things weren't as complicated as they had been when she and Andrew were in high school. And she longed for those days. His departure from her was, nevertheless, notable. He made the decision to abandon her and their children. So he fled. Doubt loomed around her, though she wished she could believe him. The anguish he had inflicted lingered in her soul. She spoke in a somewhat higher-pitched voice than usual, expressing her uncertainty about trusting someone. Amanda moved swiftly to block Andrew's approach and stood in front of Sharon. "You must depart immediately," Amanda stated with conviction. "Sharon has endured sufficient hardship." To steady herself, Sharon took a long breath. "Mom. It's all right," she whispered gently. "Then let him talk." She moved closer to Andrew and met his gaze directly. Seeing his terrified face, she knew he would stop at nothing to win them back. Nothing would get past the irate mother. Anger was building in Amanda's voice as she turned on him. "No leaving and then returning as if nothing transpired is acceptable. Your abandonment left Sharon vulnerable and fearful. Neither her life nor the lives of those babies are worthy of you." As he gulped down, Andrew begged Sharon with his eyes. "I am well aware that I am unworthy of forgiveness. Yet I beg for it still. Would you kindly let me?" "Look, Sharon. All I need is a second chance to put things right. With a racing heart, Sharon glanced over at Andrew as she turned from her mother to him. That choice was disastrous. The future of her children was her first concern. On several occasions, she wished Andrew had been there. And she recalled the evenings when she sobbed herself to sleep out of fear of being a mother on her own. She couldn't help but think back on the hopes they had and the love they had before all that happened. Amanda waited a moment before stepping back to keep an eye on Andrew. Sharon searched his eyes for an indication of honesty as she stared into his. Andrew, you've wounded me. When I needed you most, you abandoned me. At this point, why should I trust you? Anger and confusion consumed her. Andrew lowered his head and glanced at his feet. I was terrified. Sharon. It was too much for me to manage. However, after giving it some thought, I've come to the conclusion that I am powerless to escape my obligations. Our girls will have a father in me. I would love to support you. Emotions that were at odds with one another hurt Sharon's heart. Could she trust him after her past love had faded? At last she spoke up. I need time to think. Finally. We can talk in the morning when you return. Andrew just would not budge. I require some time, Sharon murmured, her voice faltering. I need some time to reflect and consider what's best for the girls and myself. Return in the morning, and we may discuss. With a look of relief on his face, Andrew nodded. I'm grateful, Sharon. I'll be back. I swear I won't make a mistake here. She wasn't anticipating it, though. Amanda yelled after him, her voice harsh and judgmental as he turned to go. Andrew, don't even for a moment believe that I'll allow you to harm her once more. I will deal with you if you ever let her down like that again. With a look of relief on his face, Andrew nodded. I'm grateful, Sharon. I'll be back. Sharon felt a wave of anxiety pass over her as he turned and left. She was aware that the choice she had to make would permanently alter both her own and her children's lives. With a bowed shoulder and no further words, Andrew left the door open to a future that was anything but definite. Karen put her hand on Sharon's shoulder in consolation. Sharon, you don't need to make a decision just now. Take your time. Together, we'll work this out. With tears welling up in her eyes, Sharon nodded. Though she had gone a long way, it seemed as though she was back at the beginning. Torn between love and betrayal, hope and terror, Sharon sat at the window and watched the shadows grow longer as the sky grew darker as the night went on. Her mind swirled with memories and feelings, all entwined with the picture of Andrew at the door, pleading for another opportunity. However, Sharon was not the same girl as previously since she had grown tougher and wiser. Karen, her daughters, and her mother were all by her side. She was aware that she wouldn't make this decision alone. At last, the young mother had the courage to confront her daughter's father. It wasn't for him. It was for them. Sharon would confront Andrew once more in the morning, and she would dictate the course of events that followed. Sharon was prepared to take charge of her story this time around, even if the past was behind her and the future was yet unwritten. After watching the story above, do you have any thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. If you enjoyed our video, please like, subscribe, and share our channel. That all about today's stories. See you next time.